we do with education isn't just about helping kids get a job someday. It's about helping them to build a better world, helping them to be fully realized citizens. And so as educators, I think we have an obligation to not just speak out against injustice, because I think all citizens have that obligation, whether they invoke it or not, but to specifically teach children to see it, to look for it, to do better, again, kind of go back to that theme of trying to build a more just world and to understand their role in that.
There was a march yesterday, the Million Hoodie March,
Right.
and everybody was wearing the hoodies. And I can't help but think that if it's the look, then we have a problem. Because we can't change our skin tone. We can try and say to the young black boys, well, if you look that way, I don't want it to be a reversal of their identity.
Right.
But yet it still happens, and we still get the answer that it's because of how they look when it boils down to it.
Right. And I think it's this weird intersection of race and youth culture. Right? I mean, and I think that both of those things were at work there, right? I mean, I think I have seen adults shirk away from my white students in hoodies or tattooed or pierced as well. So I do think there is that aspect as well. Clearly not to the level that African American young men have to get that reaction. It takes so little for a young black man to get that reaction compared to the degree to which a young white man has to sort of take his look outside the norm before he engenders that same look. But I do think some of that played into it. And I think that when you are outside the mainstream, or not the mainstream, that's the wrong word, when you are outside the dominant culture, and this is still a white dominant culture, then it takes, with each degree you move away from the white male dominant culture of what you're supposed to look like, you engender that reaction more and more. So, like, I think that we look skeptically at the society on youth these days. So youth who dress nice get away with it. Youth who choose to express their individuality don't. I mean, I remember when I was in college, and I had a ponytail, and I remember being followed by security guards in school, in stores. I would go into a store on campus, and this was, on an Ivy League campus, and I would go in with my ponytail, and I would all of a sudden notice I was getting tailed. So, and then I would have conversations with African American friends of mine, and they were like, duh.
Welcome to my world.
So I think you take a young black man, you put him in a hoodie, and all of a sudden you have this segment of the population that is willing to stereotype on that level and immediately just say he must be up to no good. And I agree with you. I think that to deny a child, a 17-year-old, the right to look like a kid is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, when did hoodies become... But I mean, you know this about me too. Like, I get heat, and I get heat from African American administrators in the school district who get upset with me that I don't ban hoodies in my school. They're like, how do you let children have hoodies? And I'm like, why?
Why should I? Why should I?
Right, and it's just because I would never think to not, like, they look like thugs. Like, and these are black administrators. And I'm like, are you...
I would probably be one of them, in all honesty, because I have my own, thoughts about what it will lead to.
Right, and that's a different question. But that, to me, as opposed to banning, is why we say be aware of your choices. Be fully conscious of your choices. Be deliberate is the word I was looking for in your choices. And, and it's why I always go back to, before I ban, I like to go to inquiry. Why wear the hoodie? Why are you doing this? What does this mean to you? You know, what do you know? And where I will go with a kid, if I see a kid like put a hoodie on in class, I'm like, why are you disappearing?
Oh.
Why are you receding? Right? Because, you know, on some level, I don't care what the color of your skin is. You pull that hoodie over your head, and you are now not as present in that moment. You are receding into that. And when I see that in the classroom, then it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on such that you don't feel fully in this classroom in this moment? What is it going on that you don't feel fully in this moment? And some people will be like, Lehmann, I'm just cold. Okay, fine. Like, I will get
That's a great point.
Right.
I never thought of it like that.
But that's why you have, to me, before we reach to the ban in schools on hoodies, we should have the conversation. Why are you making this choice? And sometimes the answer is, I just want to have my hood up. Please leave me alone. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and a style. I mean, it could be just the style of today. I mean, we wore Pro-Keds and Lee jeans, and I mean, this is back in the 70s and 80s, so I'm sure that I was thinking about Claude Steele. He wrote the book Whistling Vivaldi, and in it, the first chapter focuses on this black man who's walking down the street, and he's whistling this song, this classical music, whistling Vivaldi, and he has to do that in his own mind because he doesn't want to scare the pedestrians away from him. Because in the community that he walks through, people are afraid of black men.
Right. That's right.
And Chris, do you think we can ever move? It's like moving a mountain, but because of the position that you're in, I think you're a lot more in touch because you have the diversity in your school. Do you see any movement, any change that can give us some hope?
Do. I mean, but I don't live in Florida.
Right. True.
You know, but I mean, it's interesting. Like, so I lived in New York City, as you know, for 10 years, and came back to Philadelphia and was shocked by some of the degree to which racial anger was still so surface in many ways. In ways that I don't see in New York City in the same way. New York City is so diverse and so rich in what that diversity is. You know, I mean, there is no one easy definition in New York City for black, white, Hispanic, Asian. You cannot blanket anybody because the richness of what all of those words mean in New York are in your face every day. Unless, you know, like in most of the community, in many of the communities in New York City. Certainly in Manhattan, where I was. Philadelphia is still very black-white. There's a growing Hispanic community, there's a growing Asian community, but there's still this very dualistic discussion about race. And yet, I listen to the kids, and I'm incredibly hopeful. Because they don't draw the distinctions that we did. They don't they are so much more, the ease with which they have the discussion, I guess, is how I want to say it, is so much easier than our entry to it was, where it was, you know, our generation was so halting in our conversations about this stuff. We were so scared to even begin the dialogue.
I would have to say this while we wrap up, that if Zimmerman had been at your school, I don't think he would come out with a gun to kill this kid. I don't think he would. Because I know he would learn about the diversity and the cultures that are with us and should be treated as such, as this beautiful collage that we are.
That's right.
So keep doing what you're doing, Chris, because it's great work, and I'm giving you a thumbs up and a peace sign and a deuces.
There it is. There it is. So I look really silly when I do my peace sign. Anyway.
So thank you
so much. It's wonderful to see you and talk to you.
Oh, anytime, and I have to get that trip down to your school.
Please do. We're always there.
I will. Thank you so much.
Care.
Have a great night. Luck to your family.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye, Chris. Thank you, Mark.
What you need, what you really need. Justice. Tell them what you want, what we really want. Justice. Tell them what we need, what we really need. Justice.